Welcome back to the Autry Benton Show. Today we have the world's most beautiful woman on. She happens to be my best friend, and she's my wife. Amanda, glad to have you on here, sweetheart.
It's good to be here.
I usually shake hands. Let's get your hand. Oh, wow.
Good to be here.
Well, it's time for the world to get to know you a little better, So, as you know, do you remember the day I came home and said I wanted to step out on this journey with a TV show? You want to tell all my friends out there what you said?
Well, it was probably not the most encouraging, and I was like, what are you thinking? I don't think we should do this. I don't think you should do this. This is not what our family's about. Yeah, I was just shocked, to say the least, but as I've watched the shows and watched you and really got to know the people you've interviewed, I have to say that I love it, and I admire you for doing it and just dreaming so big. You always dream big and surprise me most of the time, but on the tail end of it, always, I love it. I love what you've done.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. We've enjoyed it.
We've laughed a lot.
We've laughed a lot. And we get to sit down with our friends and meet new friends, so it's good. So we want to get to know you a little better today. So as we start with all of our guests, where did you grow up?
So I grew up at the beach. You like to tease me because when we'll go on vacation somewhere, people ask, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from the beach. And you're like, we're from Conway, Amanda. But anyhow, I am from the beach originally. I grew up off of Forest Brook Road and went to Forest Brook Elementary and then Socastee Middle and Socastee High School. But yeah, grew up at the beach.
Good deal. And you got how many siblings?
So I have a sister named Charity, who was my best friend in all the world. I love her to pieces, still is. And then I have a half-brother, Maverick, who is significantly older than the two of us. But yeah, so two.
Good. So and tell me your parents' name.
So Patty, she was a hairdresser, and then my dad is Wesley. And yeah, Patty and Wesley. Yeah,
good deal. So what was childlike Amanda like? How did you spend your days in the neighborhood and stuff?
Yeah, so we grew up in a really cool neighborhood. We were the corner lot of just a normal neighborhood, and we were the house that everyone hung out at. And it was back in the day where you could just ride your bike all of the time with everyone in the neighborhood, and I loved that. We had the trampoline, and just everyone was always at our house, so I loved that so much. Childhood Amanda, her dancing years were super incredible. I loved that. I would say I loved hanging out with adults too, though. But yeah, that was childhood Amanda.
That's good. And I know y'all always had some horses close by as well, that y'all spent a lot of time there doing that.
Yeah, so that's a good memory of mine. I was actually thinking about that yesterday. Even like sleeping in the sleeping bags around a campfire at night, waiting for a horse to be born the next day. My sister and I taking baths in the horse troughs and probably eating more sugar cubes than I fed to the horses. But those were definitely some great memories. Trail rides and all that. My mom and sister still do that to this day. I've watched them fall off and get hurt a lot, so I am not as easy to jump on as I was in the past, but I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Yeah, and a lot of people know that your family's big into horses. They ask us a lot, and we say we just go like to watch. We don't ride horses too much anymore.
Yeah.
One thing I've always loved, and it is my family now, because when you do get married, we have both family. I've always looked at it that way. But your family on both sides, your mom's side and your dad's side, your extended family, have always been really close.
Yeah.
Even the siblings, and big family. We're big family people, but I've always loved that. So like the Young side, which come from Georgetown, you spent a lot of time in Yall right?
Yeah.
A lot of people familiar with the family. Tell me about Yall days.
So funny story about that is I remember kind of not long after we met, you remind me that I said, I'm a country girl. I'm from the country, even though I was from Myrtle Beach. But yeah, Yall was a super big part of our life. I learned how to drive out there in my dad's stick shift truck and fish and set trot lines for catfish. And our oldest son learned how to walk, took his first steps out in Yall. So super special place and super special people. And I was actually reflecting on this last night, just laying in the bed, how grateful I am that both sides of my family growing up were so close and just poured into me in such a big way. On the way here, I had an aunt from my dad's side text and say, hey, I want to grab lunch this week with you and your sister. I miss you. I love you so much. So that's just super important to have aunts that you look up to and just really pour into you your whole life. It's incredible.
For sure, for sure. And then on your mom's side, you know, like you say, they're all sisters.
Yeah.
Most of them live around the Fayetteville area, right outside of Fayetteville, but, you know, always spent time. We've always spent time with that, and I just love how close they are. And, you know, it's sad in our world today, and I think families should find it a little harder to spend more time together and to make it work. I mean, family's always difficult, you know, nobody has a perfect family, but your family's always did really well at that, and I admire that.
Yeah.
So, you know, getting a little older, you know, tell us about going into high school, kind of like what you're into as life progressed and how life was.
So going into high school was probably one of the hardest seasons of mine and my sister's life. We went through something kind of tough, but God was so faithful through it, and we just clung to each other and clung to Jesus, and we came out better for it. But high school was a time that like I said, I really loved adults, and I was really close to a lot of my high school teachers. Mr. McQueen had a big impact in my life, Julie Hardwick, that knew that I was going through a struggle and just really were there for me. And Sockasee Singers was just like a family feel. You know, it was an elite choir that you had to try out for, and just something I'm so glad that I got to be a part of. But I was probably not your average teenager. I know it's going to sound prideful, but I don't mean it in that way at all. But I just really wanted to always please my parents, you know, and do the right thing and walk differently, you know, and walk the narrow road was just what I tell our kids often, you know, don't walk the wide road, walk the narrow one, and be set apart for the Lord. And I really did desire that.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, and you've served faith already, but like, tell me, you know, we're Christians, you know, when your faith journey started, when you accepted the Lord, you know, we don't say church, we say personal relationship. Tell me about your faith journey.
So I was super, super blessed to grow up in a family that both my parents deeply loved the Lord. It was a genuine faith, you know, not just something, they didn't just take us to church and not live it out at home. I mean, they really did. My mom was a person full of joy, and I honestly don't think I can remember a time when she's ever spoke a bad word about anyone. And then my dad was just a man full of faith, you know, always in the Word. My mom went to Bible study fellowship, and that was a big part, you know, of my childhood, watching her learn and grow through the Bible. And so super blessed to have that at home. So I really do believe I gave my heart and life genuinely to Christ at a young age. And you like to tell me that, you know, because we went through something somewhat traumatic that I don't really have a clear memory of that time. And so I do believe I saw evidence of my salvation all throughout my childhood and teenage years, you know, conviction and just wanting to live a life pleasing to the Lord. But I remember sitting under a message at Langston at a coastal evangelism conference, and I couldn't remember, like he was saying, like a date or a time or even who led me or just any details that surrounded that, and just had like this nagging sense in my spirit, like I'm 99.9% sure, but I'm not 100% sure. And if there's anything I want to be sure at in life is, you know, knowing that Jesus is mine, that I'm going to spend eternity with him. So I remember we went home, and I was like, we got to get this right, you know, kneeling on our couch at home. And I've had a peace ever since. Yeah,
that's good. That's good. You know, and we do believe salvation starts at a point, but it is that's the starting point. That's where you jump in the pool, and then you continue. We have faith markers all along the way.
Yeah.
Also talking about that, I got a kind of insight. I know a lot about your story. So, but during that hard season too, I think another part was there was a church very instrumental in your life. Grand Strand Baptist Church. You know, they were really there for you. You had a lot of great friends there too. You want to talk about? Yes.
Thank you for reminding me. They actually picked me up on my sister and I on a church bus at our house and took us to church until we really got to know people there, and then became friends, and people would pick us up and not the church bus. But Stephanie Rabin and Stephen, Katrina Hubbard were just super influential in my life. You know, looking at them and what a godly marriage looked like and a godly mom looked like. I've texted and called them often throughout the years and just thanked them for the impact that they had in my life. It was incredible. It's an incredible place. I love it. It's super special.
Yeah. You know, and I know you told me that story a lot of times. I think sometimes we think about, not that it matters, God loves everybody, but like who makes an impact for the kingdom of God. And then we think about the Billy Grahams and the famous preachers, but Nancy and Shields Hunter were
Yeah,
faithful to drive. You know, I
absolutely.
just think if there is such a thing, you get to heaven, I just think Jesus is going to say, these are the silent servants
Yeah.
that really impacted the kingdom.
So
you
true.
know, and I think that's important. You know, so if somebody's out there listening, you know, your service matters. You
Yeah.
know, when you're doing it for the right reasons. You know, for sure.
And they actually went to Langston with us,
Yes.
you know, and so I'm super grateful for them too. I'm glad you mentioned them. As I sing in the choir, I like to look out at the people in the congregation and just would always hold eye contact with her for a moment in these last few years, you know, knowing that life was dwindling in her age and her health, and just so grateful for, you know, what they did for Charity and I.
Yeah, good. So special people there. So anyway, so tell us about end of high school, finishing up or whatever. I mean, and I think our audience should know you're an amazing singer. Well, I very much confessed I can't sing. She can sing like a songbird, you know. And
Very kind.
But tell me your thoughts on what you want to do after high school and kind of how that played out from your perspective.
Yeah, so I tell Autry, and everyone really knows this about me, is that I believe, born from my mother's womb, like desiring to be a wife and mom. Like that's all I ever wanted in life, the supreme thing that I wanted. I didn't want to be a boss babe, which there's nothing wrong with that, and I have friends that are just very successful in the workplace, and I admire them. That was never my heart's desire, and so, like you said, the singing thing, and I remember going to all-county chorus, and Mr. McQueen announced in our class, you know, guess who had the highest score in all-county chorus, and I was very shocked that it was me, you know, always just very humble on God's favor in my life, but so singing was something that I could go to in the future. I remember I had a scholarship to somewhere in Brevard, and you know, even your dad was like, listen, if there's, you know, college that you want to pursue, you know, we'll help you, whatever that looks like. But that just wasn't me. It wasn't what I wanted. You know, once I met you as a junior in high school, and I mean, we can go more into detail later, but I just wanted to be a wife and a mom. So after high school, that looked like you know, getting a job and just waiting until I was married and I could stay home with kids.
Yeah. Other thing, I think the Lord just has humor. You know, you had the top score for ladies. I got the bottom score. You know,
that was His divine plan of intervention meeting.
Absolutely. You know, and the other thing too, I think their audience should know, it's just the fabric of us. But during that time, you worked a full-time job in high school, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
tell some of your jobs you worked at.
So I did work a 40-hour-a-week job while going to high school. I started at Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. I nannied for a family of 4, which is kind of ironic because we have 4 kids now. And they were instrumental in my life as well, that family. And then I also worked at Maidenform. I was a manager there in high school, closing up, taking, you know, deposits to the bank and all sorts of things like that. So, I mean, I was a grown woman in high school doing grown woman things. Yeah.
You know, and I very jokingly, but very seriously, like when I met you, that was the other thing too, is like, I was like, this is a woman. This ain't no child trying to figure it out. You know, you were always very mature, which very much attracted me to you, and you were just serious about things in life. You know, we talk about it here too, but like work was a blessing. I mean, you meet relationships
absolutely.
And people, and we learn lots of good skills by doing that, right?
Yeah. I don't regret that at all. I'm super thankful for that. But now on the flip side, it's like raising our kids and wanting a little bit different for our children. You know, neither you nor I could play sports, you know, because we did both work so heavily in high school, and wanting our kids to cheer and baseball and football, which they've been able to do all of those things. But, you know, having a happy balance of both, I think would be the best.
Good deal. So, as you know, they know some of our story, but like we got married after, tell the story, your perspective, how we got married and moved off.
Yeah, so we got married. You were in the Marine Corps, and we moved off to, I worked in Hampstead, and you worked in Jacksonville, and we kind of lived in the middle of those two places on North Topsail Island, a beachfront condo. And yet, we came home every single weekend because our church and family was so important to us that we just didn't want to miss a moment. We look back now and we're like, should we have stayed and just like honeymooned on the beach and stuff? But you know, we wouldn't take anything for those years that we got to spend with family, and our church just really growing deep in the Lord in our first years at Langston. But yeah.
Special times. And so getting out of the Marine Corps, coming home, having our first son, tell your thoughts of arriving at motherhood.
Oh my goodness, that was just the best thing ever. I mean, God given me the desires of my heart, you know, and you and our kids. I don't even have words. It was just the most incredible thing. So much so that I remember getting pregnant with Gracie and thinking, I'll never be able to love this child like I love Keith Autry, you know, that my love was just so intense and so deep. And it was just so perfect. Life was so perfect. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. You know, and I said on the episode that I was on, like, I was nervous to death. And then Amanda's like, I got this, Autry, or whatever,
yeah,
you know.
I remember you at the hospital, you were like, no, we're going to sit this nurse down. She's going to tell us everything we need to know. And I was like, no, we're not. I've got this.
Yeah. And you remember driving home, like it was 55 and I was driving 30, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think every dad and mom's felt that for the first time with your baby.
For sure.
And, and you pretty much told me it was your dream to stay home, be a wife and a mother.
Yeah.
And I've always said, you know, it's my dream too, that I wanted that for you.
Yeah,
you
know?
Did. And I think that's a discussion that a lot of homes have today, Amanda, because I think, listen, and we want to say it again, you said it, but there's nothing wrong if a wife wants wants to work outside the home, because you've had friends that have tried it, and you want to talk about that perspective?
Yeah, so a friend of mine thought, well, you know, Amanda's doing this, it looks great, she's loving it, like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to try it, and she did not love it and went back into the workplace, which was totally fine. You know, if that is, you're not going to be productive there, and, you know, there's no joy there, you know, God's called us all to different things and different ministries, and that was mine. So, yeah. But anyway, and I think lots of families have that discussion too, and it's tough starting out, you know. I mean, money's always tough and finance, but we were always committed to that. Yeah. And I always said to that conversation, you have too, that you always have to place in the conversation the price of daycare, the fuel and stuff, and we really just value that. You might have to change your level of living a little bit if you wanted to do that. We would encourage families to do that. God will make a way if you want to do that. Yeah, there was a lot of, you know, we didn't go on vacation, we didn't eat out a ton, you know, it sounds like I'm poor mouthing, but I'm being, you know, real and authentic. You know, we had hand-me-down furniture, and our washing machine and dryer was on the outside of our house. So I mean, it was a humble place. But when I say all that, to me, it was like living in the lap of luxury is what I felt like I was living. You know, just every dream I could have ever imagined had come true, even living in what I just described. I mean, it was absolute perfect to me. Good deal.
So time's quickly going. So tell us about, you know, having more kids. So our next kid was?
Yeah, we had another little girl, and her name is Gracie. And of course, instantly when she was laid in my arms, you know, that love multiplied, and it was easy.
You could love another child.
Yeah, I could love another child. So then I never had that feeling again. You know, I knew that our love just multiplied, and it wasn't restricted to one child. But yeah, so.
Then Eden.
And then we had Eden. And what was so neat about having her 19 months after Gracie was like they grew up best friends. You know, they shared a room together. Everything that they did was together: gymnastics, dance, cheer. And to this day, you know, they shared a room until the day Gracie got married and left with tears. You know, that they would never share a room again. So it was pretty special what they have.
Good deal. So, I mean, life, we did life, you know, and, you know, we're certainly not perfect. We've said it on here many times. We made mistakes, but we really enjoyed life. We always, you know, made it an effort to try to eat around the table almost every day.
Yeah,
she's an amazing cook. She's a great cook. But we really valued that time and just tried to do it. Life was good, you know. So Lawson, our last one, he came along how many years later?
I think he's 10 years after Keith Autry. Yeah, exactly 10 years. So I remember like always wanting children, but I wanted you to want the next one and not just me be like, are you ready to have another one? Yeah. I remember you were on the hood of your truck and you were like, Amanda, I think I'm ready to have another child. And I was like, let's go. So anyhow, yeah, we had our Lawson, and Eden actually likes to take credit that she prayed him into the family. Yeah, he's amazing, and it was so neat to watch that. The other three get to really enjoy him, you know, in a different way, because there was a significant age difference. They all like to parent him and all the things, but we might need some help in our older age parenting anyways. And
it's funny, even little stories like drawing straws, who was going to hold the baby first, little things like that, you know. And it's kind of funny, you know, that now that Lawson's 15, like the conversation like, was I really planned or whatever? And we say, son, if there was ever a planned child, it was you, you know,
yeah,
for
you
sure.
want to tell the audience what your passion is?
I call it my summer of passion, you know, so it was good. It was fun. So, yeah, so that's why I reminded him. I was like, no, son, you're my summer of passion.
That's
so,
right.
For sure. So it was good. Anyway, moving on. So it's good, you know, so we got grown kids now.
Yeah. And after even having grown kids, about 2 years before our son and daughter-in-law got married, which she's so precious to, and our son-in-law as well, and our 2 grandbabies. But you wanted to have another one. Like, and I was like, are you going through midlife crisis? Like, I think we're done. We're not trying to be Father of the Bride Part 2.
Yeah,
so.
and I'm glad that quickly passed, because we did have our grandson, and I don't have near the energy I do. You know, it's kind of funny. Our older kids kind of tease us that we're a lot softer in our latter years.
Which maybe is true.
Raised Lawson, but maybe not. Maybe we're wiser. Don't have enough. It's the same energy. But we also have two kids grown now. So talk about Ashley and Taylor.
Yeah, so Ashley and Taylor, it's funny, Gracie and I were talking this morning about going on the show, and she was like, I told Taylor he's going to have to come on the show, and he was like, I'm not doing that. And Ashley says the same thing, like she does, they don't want to be front and center, you know, if the camera maybe, but they are exceptional. They both love our kids just with an unconditional love. I mean, we could not have asked for better in them. And Ashley's an amazing mom to our 2 grandkids. And I like to think of describing mine and Ashley's relationship as like a Ruth and Naomi. Now, not to the point where we don't have our husbands, so I'm so thankful that's not part of our story.
I'm glad we're still around.
Yeah, I'm glad you are too. But just that, we're tight. You know, she lets me love the grandkids how I want, and I can have them anytime I want. And like, she's my 3rd best friend. You know, it was our 2 daughters, and she's just we're a group of 4 now. Everything we do is together. And you know, most mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws can't say that, and that's not the stigma typically. But I'm just super grateful to God that He gave us her, and that He gave us Taylor, who's taking care of Gracie in law school so well. It's been, you know, a struggle, and he's just done all the things. He cooks and he cleans, and yeah, we just hit the jackpot with our in-laws.
Yeah, and bragging on Taylor a little bit. I mean, he's such a hard worker. He's a quiet spirit. He served our country, deployed to overseas to Afghanistan, and you know, he's such a hard worker. He pursues education, and we're very blessed. Now talk about our 2 grandsons.
Oh my goodness, I wish they were here right now. I thought about having them here and let them run up at this moment, but anyways, they're just perfect little angels, and it's just been the best season. Now, I did get advice, like when I was going to become a grandparent, people would say, oh, you're going to love them more than you love your own kids, but apparently people don't know how much I love my own kids, because that's not true. And you just love them differently. You love them equally, but it's like a different love for you, and a different love for the kids, and a different love for the grandkids. But my love for y'all is all the same. And I'm just absolutely obsessed with the 2 of them. They call me Gigi, and I think Cohen would live in our house with his parents, if they could live there too, would be his like desire. I mean, we're just tight, is what I would say. I mean, he has just melted my whole world. Yeah, and Cade, yeah, he's so precious. He's got to the point now where he, you know, smiles and his face lights up when you talk to him, and super sweet. We've had a couple Gigi days too, and I love snuggling with him and naps with him, and he's so different from Cohen. We're wondering like how his personality is going to be as he continues to grow. But yeah, we hit the jackpot with them too. Yeah, they're 1 in a million.
For sure. Well, so I was going to ask you this. So what is some marriage advice you would give?
Marriage advice. I think we talk about this often, and it's that, like, you know, when you go through struggles in marriages, and you will, like, you know, we've been married 28 years. Everything hasn't always been perfect, but what I learned over, you know, the course of my childhood is that even in those tough times that I wanted to choose you, even when I didn't feel like maybe I was in love with you, or, you know, it was we've gone through a really hard season in life before, but I wanted to choose love even when I didn't feel love. So that would be my biggest advice. You know, when you make a commitment, like, really stick with it, and really stick with your commitment that you made before God and each other.
Good deal. And it's a very important decision, right? People consider a marriage. When you say that they really need to consider it hard who they're marrying, because it's an important decision for sure.
Yeah, the Bible talks about, like, you know, a complaining wife, in Proverbs a ton, it's terrible, if you're married to the wrong person, but it's amazing if you're married to the right person.
Yeah, for sure. All right, how about some parenting advice?
Parenting advice. I would say, make sure you're living out at home, what we're Christ followers. So, but make sure it's not just a title, like your children really see and know that what you say and what you believe is also what you're living out, that it's genuine, and to also know that as much as you are raising them in the admonition of the Lord and by the Bible and all of those things, that you have to understand that just like we're not robots, God doesn't make us robots. Our kids aren't robots either. Like you can pour into them so much, but they still get to make their own decisions. And to know that you can't control them, but that God is over everything. He's supreme and He's sovereign. And to just pray a lot, stay on your knees a lot.
What's some things you still want to do in life? Like, what's some things that excite you in the morning?
Well, I'm still dropping off at 9th grade school, which I love that. In fact, sometimes you're like, let me take them to football practice at 5 a.m. this morning. But I truly just love those moments in the car with our kids, and just I want to care and do all the things a mom would do. And I'm like, I got it. But so just watch them grow and love the Lord, and watch our grandsons grow and love the Lord, and our future grandchildren. I think we're going to have a lot because we have 4 kids. And when we ask them, like, how many kids do you want? They all say like 4. So we can end up with like 16 grandkids, which would be great. But yeah, just watch them live out chasing Jesus and honoring the Lord. And I want to grow old with you. I write in my Bible all the time, Lord, would you let me live to be 100, healthy and bringing glory to your name. So those are my desires.
That's good. That's good. And we've been able to spend a little bit more time together. We've traveled some and do some fun things. My kids always tease us that that I just want to be your kid, and that means I get a lot more of your time because it gets sucked up a lot. Sometimes.
Yeah, they say you're the baby of the family for sure.
Yeah, I certainly can. I certainly can be. For sure. Good. Like, so any more advice that you would give to like young moms or families, or that to do,
Yeah, just to soak it all up. It goes by so fast, as you know. It just seems like yesterday we've started, and here we are with grown kids and grandkids. To be patient, leave out all those fruits of the Spirit at home with your children. They say you're sometimes the worst to the people you live with, but you don't have to be. Be the best. And let God guide you, and definitely stay in the Word. I find that when you're reading your Bible and God's convicting daily and chiseling at your heart and things that need to be different, it's easier to live out those things with your kids and before your husband. But make it be a place that your kids want to come home to and your husband want to come home to. And depending on how you raise your family, will depend on whether or not your kids want to come back when they're grown, if they want to hang out with you, if they want to be your best friend. Yeah. And I'm so thankful we have that. Well,
honey, I do look forward to coming home to you every day, and I just want to brag on you. Thank you for allowing me to chase my dreams and to serve others, and we do it together. And I love you.
I love you.
Folks, thank you for joining me today. Lots of good advice from my sweetheart. I hope you're doing well and you're pursuing all you want in life. Hey, God's given us a good life to live. Make sure you're chasing your dreams and living your best for Him. Join us next time.